Everyone, welcome back to my channel, guys. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to this channel. Canada has actually joined Trump to condemn Christian genocide or Christian persecution going on in Nigeria. Guys, these terrorists, if they know what's better for them, they should start returning to where they came from. They should drop their guns, surrender, and return to where they came from, because this is a game over, guys. This one is a game over, because Canada, US are ready to deal with them. So guys, take a look at this video and I'll be right back.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to bring attention to the tragedy Christians in Nigeria are experiencing. The deadly terrorist organization Boko Haram is trying to eliminate the Christian faith from Nigeria. This is the same terrorist group that kidnapped dozens of young schoolgirls and burned innocent civilians alive in cages. According to reports, over 3.5 million people have been forced to flee their homes. 3 churches are destroyed every single day. 7,000 Christians were massacred this year alone, and the faithful must now meet in secret or in burnt-out sanctuaries. Sadly, the world is turning a blind eye to the plight of Christians in Nigeria. There are no embedded journalists covering the violence. There are not daily updates. Politicians around the world are not asked questions about how they will respond. We cannot ignore this violence and tragic loss of life. We must speak out and shine a light on what's happening so that people can donate to relief efforts and provide support to those displaced by violence. To my brothers and sisters in Christ, we know you know the power of prayer. We will not forget you. Stay strong. Keep the faith.
Ayo and I have 2 very special guests who have great experience in these matters. Right here in our studios, we have Captain Bish Johnson, who is a retired U.S. Army personnel, defense and political affairs analyst as well. He's written an article in the wake of this statement. And we also have joining us via Zoom from the United Kingdom, Professor Ademola Abbas, who is a global affairs analyst. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on Sunrise Early this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Prof.
Thank you for having me.
Great. It's good that I can hear you loud and clear. Well, let me start with you, Captain Bish Johnson. You, in your own writing, you have said this is no ordinary moment in global affairs. What do you think is happening? How are you reading and interpreting this situation?
Okay. Yeah, good morning and thank you for having me. I think in your intro, you correctly deduced the fact that we are incorrectly reading what the Americans are reading. We are reading this thing as a matter of intolerable religious practice. The Americans are reading it differently. They're reading it as, here you have Muslims, killing Christians. Now, that's the element of both local and geopolitics involved in this thing. And the local politics is this. This is good for Donald Trump. And in my article that you talked about, I distinguished between Donald Trump's first term, Donald Trump 1.0, and Donald Trump 2.0. And I also differentiated it from the administrations of Biden and Barack Obama. This Donald Trump 2.0 is an administration that first and foremost, they will shoot first before they ask questions later. It is not what he had in his previous administration, where they will first ask questions before they shoot. And that's why we have to be very, very careful how we deal with this situation. I am happy with the statement that was directly issued by Mr. President. I think that statement is correct. I don't think that this current administration should take ownership of what happened in Buhari and Jonathan's administration, because everything that is happening in Nigeria is public knowledge. We know, the world knows that Nigeria has insecurity problem, just like we know that America has gun problem. So for Mr. President to talk about 2023 to date, that is the right way to go. Don't take ownership of Buhari's administration. Don't take ownership of Goodluck Jonathan's administration. Just engage Mr. Trump, because this is a very highly unpredictable administration. We've seen what is going on in the Caribbean Sea, off the coast of Venezuela. And I know that politicians and scholars will be talking about international laws. Donald Trump does not follow international laws. If he did, he wouldn't be in the Caribbean Sea. If he did, he wouldn't be deploying USS Alford down to the Caribbean Sea. The Israelis, as you see, did not listen to international law. So this is not a time to talk about international law and speak long grammar. This is a time to engage and get practical results, because this is a very unpredictable administration. If they decide to come into Nigeria, I don't see the capability that we possess in this country to stop them. It's a matter of seconds. They've taken over our airspace, and this is something we must engage them and prevent it from happening. And we should be able to present our case in a very genuine and concise manner, accept that we have a problem. There's a problem in Nigeria. There's a problem. And why I say that there's an element of local and international geopolitics in it is this. Why is it now, after the UN General Assembly speech by the Vice President? You see, before now, I understood that the centerpiece of Nigerian foreign policy is Africa. Africa is the centerpiece of Nigerian foreign policy. I don't know at what point we had deviated from that foreign policy and now made Palestine the centerpiece of Nigerian foreign policy. This is a very sensitive and explosive discussion which we have no business engaging in, because we already have our own problems that we are dealing with, and we ought to focus on those problems that are of direct interest to Nigeria and stop engaging in things that we have no business engaging in. If you look at the issue of Russia and Ukraine, largely African leaders had maintained what I call strategic neutrality by remaining silent in that war. And that is what we need to adopt. We need to maintain strategic neutrality in issues about Palestine so that we don't go the way of South Africa. You see what is happening in South Africa? What is happening between the US and South Africa is as a result of direct consequence of South Africa's action against Israel, taking their leaders to International Criminal Court and all that stuff. And this is what Donald Trump and his evangelical Christians in America are reading. That, look, you have a country, Nigeria, that has been led for about a decade now by Muslim leaders, because you can't take away the fact that Buhari was a Muslim and he was in office for 8 years, and now you have Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is also a Muslim, who's been in office for 2 years, and for a decade they have not been able to rein in Boko Haram, which is, by the way, an Islamic terrorist organization that emerged in the scene with a declaration that it wants to establish an Islamic state within the sovereign state of Nigeria, where they are going to practice Sharia law. All these things are public notice that the Americans are aware of. And so that is why we must tread with caution. We must tread with honesty and engage the Americans and lay out the steps that had been taken by this administration within 2 years to deal with the problems, insecurity problems that we have. And then lay out the areas of challenges that the administration is facing and ask America, look, this is our challenge. How can you help in these areas of challenges that we have?
Thank you very much, Captain Bish Johnson. Let me come to Professor Ademola Abbas. I do not know whether you agree with his submissions. I mean, he said quite a number of things. He said that we're dealing with a U.S. that really doesn't regard very much international law, that they shoot first and ask questions later. We know that usually within international relations, there are rules, some of them spoken, some of them unspoken, that guides relations between countries. I've written a statement, or will I say an article written by Nigeria's former Chief of Army Staff, Tukur Buratai. He also says, this is a moment charged with danger of catastrophic miscalculation, yet it holds the potential for a more resilient and mutually advantageous alliance. Do you see room here for Nigeria to be able to improve its relations with the United States in a way that mutually benefits both countries? Or do you think that we've since gone way beyond that, given the statement given by President Donald Trump?
Well, thank you very much, Mark. Good morning again, and good morning, Ayo. It's nice seeing both of you again. First, to your question whether I agree with the gentleman who just spoke. Well, he said many things. Some I don't agree with, obviously. He made a reference to the fact that this is not the time to talk about international law and all this stuff. But I think if I take that from, not merely because I'm a person of international law, but because this is one of the ways we tend to misfire sometimes and misdirect our attention. As an example, Donald Trump used the word genocide. Genocide is not a domestic law term. Genocide is an international law term. And Donald Trump has a specific reason for invoking genocide. in this particular situation. Let's forget whether he invoked it in the Gaza one, other places that he should have, or the US should have, but at least he's invoking it in it. That is an international law playing at them. He knows by the virtue of 1940 Genocide Convention, the moment you invoke the existence of genocide in any place, albeit whether it is right or wrong, there is an obligation in the international community to take an action. So, and that is the point. Those who want to play this game, they know how to use international to their advantage. We should not shy away from it. We should confront them with that. So we should come and say, for instance, well, if you are invoking genocide, that there's genocide, Christian genocide in Nigeria, as a matter of international law, the question is, it does not lie on you as a country to unilaterally then decide what to do. Because Genocide Convention lays out the procedures to be followed if there is genocide in place. That's just to show that we cannot shy away from international law at all, because they are very, very smart in doing that. Now, having said that, look, on the question of whether there is an opportunity here between Nigeria and US to improve their relationships, that presupposes there's a breakdown of relationship between the two countries. Obviously, yes. If there was no breakdown, I don't think we would have got to this particular point in our relationship with the United States, as an example. But then we need to take a step back before we get lost in the whole narratives, all this here and there, whatever is flying around. How did we get here, Mark? It's a critical question. How did we get here? I've read so many things, people saying there was genocide, there's no genocide. That is not the issue here. The issue is, as a country, we are dealing with a mammoth problem of insecurity in our country, in which perception plays a critical role. And I'll be the first to say, like everybody else, killings in Nigeria today have become so brutally normalized. In fact, it has become completely banalized. So we have the banality of evil on a daily basis in our life. About 3 years ago, some people went to a church in Owo, in Ondo State, and killed so many Christians in a church. In Plateau State today, in Benue State today, part of Nasarawa and so on, a lot of Christians have been killed. But also, a lot of Muslims have been killed too. Bullets do not discriminate between, Muslims and Christians. That is one argument. So today, we don't even need the America to tell us, to designate us as a country of particular concern, or CPC, whatever you call it. We should know we are unto ourselves, have become a country of particular concern, or even unto ourselves. We don't need the top party to tell us that. Now, how did we get here? It's a very important question. This is not the first time Nigeria has been designated by CPC. Trump 1.0 did it, don't forget. Biden came in 2021, took us from that list. By the way, in that list, you have Saudi Arabia, you have North Korea, you have China, and some other countries in the world that are still on that list. Biden came and took us from that list. Now, in the same year, 2021, there was an bipartisan report on the issue of the International Religious Freedom Act, IIF, which there were issues about. Now, the question is, what did we do about that report in 2021? Apart from that, when certain figures began to emerge, especially with Trump 2.2, the second term of Trump, you have a lot of hawkish people in that government. No question about that, whether you are Exet or you are Marco Rubio or you are Ted Cruz. They have their own sympathies towards a particular region, no doubt about that. Then the question is, what did we do when they began to send, people to Nigeria to come and investigate what is going on in the country? And they will go to specific areas, Benue State, Plateau State, and places that will justify whatever report they wanted to do. What did our government do as a people to counter that? It seems to me we've taken a chill pill for too long on this matter. Now, don't forget, when Barack Obama was there was this issue of this LGBT whatsoever. Barack Obama, because of Nigeria's response to that issue, just like Uganda, Barack Obama chose not to sell weapons to Nigeria. He didn't say, not only did he stop from not selling arms to Nigeria, he actually prevented other countries from selling arms to Nigeria. It was the same Donald Trump that came here and reversed that and began to sell arms to Nigeria. So Donald Trump is doing something for Nigeria. Naturally, he wants something back from it. Now, what did he get back? If you are Donald Trump, let's be honest, you'll be asking for something in return. There is no free dinner, no free lunch anywhere, not even in Freetown, diplomatically speaking. Donald Trump seems to do something for Nigeria, but he's asking himself, what am I getting back? Number one, Palestinian issue, Gaza. Nigeria went to the General Assembly. And I'm not saying as a country we should be cowed or we shouldn't be able to speak our mind. But there's a way you do it diplomatically, for goodness sake. That does not make you look as if you are jettisoning one side completely and you are into that's what it's all about. So when the vice president, correctly in my view, addressed the General Assembly, maybe we should have found a way of parsing our language to make things more balanced. Donald Trump read that. Then do not forget, on the issue of Venezuelan criminals, Nigeria, Donald Trump made it very clear then, if you remember, that Nigeria must take these criminals, otherwise Nigeria will pay for it. Look, We don't have to buckle because of that. We don't have to say, well, because you said that, Mr. President, we are going to jump into this. No. But there's a way diplomacy plays a role in that. We didn't do that. That's the second thing, as an example, that probably Donald Trump will be looking for something for that he didn't get. Then, fast forward. This happened. What has been our response so far? What has been the response of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? We don't even have any ambassador at the moment that could interfere between Nigeria and the US. So things degenerated to this level because I think as a people, if we are honest with each other, I think we become a bit complacent in the way we've approached some of these issues, in the way we've tackled the issue of insecurity in Nigeria. Any society, whether you're killing Christians or Muslim or traditional worshippers, that you are killing, that people are being killed. On the scale Nigerians are being killed today, you don't need any third party to tell you your country has become a CPC. Now, that does not mean that the government has become tolerant of that. I disagree with that. I don't think our government has become tolerant of, killings at all, whether you are killing Muslims or Christians or whatever. I don't believe in that narrative. But the question is not how much I believe, is what the government is doing to counter that narrative as and when they arise, not when things get to this boiling point. Having said that, Margaret, I think we've got to a crunch place now, in which as a people we must make a choice. How do we engage with the Americans on this? And make no mistake, all those who are saying the US cannot attack us, they haven't got any sense of history. I'm not saying the US will attack us. There's a difference between can they attack us or will they attack us? There are two different questions. Don't let them get to them. But what is important here is how do we diplomatically resolve this logjam? For me, that is the critical point. And I think Nigeria has a golden opportunity here to step forward and say, look, mistakes have been made, no doubt. We've learned some lessons. We need your partnership like any major Western partner. We need your partnership to be able to defeat insecurity in our land, whether it is against Christians or Muslims or whatever it is. So far, innocent people have been killed on a daily basis. We need help and we need to move decisively. For me, I think that is where the opportunity lies. It's the ability of Nigerian government to say, look, we're not going to engage in, combo diplomacy. We're not going to engage in megaphone diplomacy. We're going to do that. What we're going to do is to have a constructive way of engaging with our international partners, including the United States, to be able to say, look, it's high time we began to take some serious actions to be able to lay to rest the issue of insecurity in our country. So I do think there's an opportunity here for Nigeria and the United States to be able to improve their relationship.
Oh, well, both our guests, I can see that you both see opportunities. But I'm wondering, this statement, we saw one statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs before we saw that of the president. I'm just wondering whether you think that the presidency is reading this correctly. Nigeria seems to be interpreting this as a question of tolerance, it will seem, between Christians and Muslims. But when you look at the statement, it's about jihadists, Islamic terrorists. Do you think that Nigeria is being careful, or is a misinterpretation of what the U.S. is saying?
Well, I don't think it's a misinterpretation of what the U.S. is saying. I mean, it's normal that when you are looking at something, as an example, if you are myopic, if you have, short-sightedness, and I am long-sighted, and we are looking at the same object, if I don't have my glasses on, I will look at these things differently from the way you are looking at. We are looking at the same thing, but we are giving different report. Now, it doesn't mean that one is being deliberate in evading what you are, or in reinterpreting what you are saying, or what he is saying from what you are saying. But what is important, as far as I'm concerned, it's not just a question of whether Nigeria is reading it correctly or wrongly. It's what Nigeria is prepared to do with the core issue here, whether it is a classification of genocide or not. The only thing U.S. is talking about is that Christian lives are being, tampered with in Nigeria, being decimated in Nigeria. You can extend that to say there is no more sanctity of life in Nigeria, whether it's Christian life, Muslim life, pagans life, whatever lives are no longer sacrosanct in our country. And for me, that should be the focus that we should be concerned ourselves in. We won't engage, as an example, in trading wars and with. For instance, when I read what President Trump said about Nigeria being a disgraced country, some people want to get one with that. That why is it calling our country disgraced? Is it simply because we've not been able to tackle insecurity? Then if that classification is because of that, there are so many disgraced countries in the world, including the US, that after almost 200 and something years has not been able to tackle the issue of gun violence in that country. But when you go on that level with Donald Trump, you're making a mistake. Donald Trump is a president who uses what we deems fit. Even his own colleagues in government, he will call them Sleepy Joe, Crooked Hillary, and this and that. The mayor of London here, he used very uncomplimentary terms on him and so on and so forth. So you don't focus on that. That is Trump's personality. That is Trump's character. Don't waste your time on that. Focus on the issue. What is the issue? For me, the salient question is, why are Americans getting this, at this point in time, getting so wound up on what is going on? They've been there for a long time, but you have to be fair. To whom much is given, sometimes a lot more is expected. The US has been a partner of Nigeria. They've trained our military. They've done so many things. They've allowed weapons to be sold to us. And so they have a right to ask. For me, if Trump has said, look, I'm not happy with Nigeria because of the way Nigeria is allowing its people to be killed, that would be more acceptable than to focus only on Christians. Because at the end of the day, as a so-called leader of the freedom world, life should matter to you, whether they are Muslims or they are Christians, whether they are, no matter what they are. At the end of the day, life should matter to you, not just focusing on Christians alone. So I think we should take a step back and ask ourselves a sincere question.
So guys, the world is finally paying attention in a powerful diplomatic move. Canada has officially joined the United States in condemning the ongoing persecution and alleged genocide of Christians in Nigeria. So this comes amid rising international concerns over escalating attacks, mass killings, and the silence of authorities in regions plagued by terrorism and violence. So guys, they will break down what this joint condemnation means, the political and humanitarian implication, and how it could shape Nigeria's relationship with the global community. For years, reports has flooded out of Nigeria, stories of Christians, community attack, churches burnt, and villagers slaughtered by groups such as Boko Haram, ISWAP, and also violent Fulani militant fractions. So while Nigerian authorities have often described this as banditry or farmer herders conflict, international observers and human rights organizations said the violence has taken on a clear religious dimension. According to reports from Open Doors International and also Amnesty International and the U.S. Commission on International Religion Freedom, thousands of Christians has been killed or displaced in just the past few years, often with little to no accountability. So this week, the Canadian Minister of Foreign Affairs released a statement aligning with the U.S. position on Nigeria's deepening religious crisis. Canada expressed grave concerns over the systematic targeting of Christian communities and religious minorities, a rare direct acknowledgement from the Ottawa, which traditionally uses more diplomatic language. So this statement went further to urge the Nigerian government to uphold its constitutional duty and protect all citizens and bring perpetrators to justice. Canada also signaled possible humanitarian and diplomatic intervention, including increased support for refugee relief efforts and international investigation into the ongoing killings. The United States has earlier raised alarms, Donald Trump and lawmaker and Christian advocacy group calling the crisis in Nigeria one of the most religious persecution of the 21st century. So Trump in particular has been vocal about defending persecuted Christians globally, and Nigeria has repeatedly been mentioned as a country of particular concern under U.S. religious freedom laws. So with Canada now stepping into the alignment, it marks the first coordinated North American front against religious persecution in Nigeria. Analysts say this could lead to joint action, targeted aid, restriction, or even international inquiries into the conduct of Nigerian security forces and local officials accused of negligence or complicity. So guys, this development puts immense diplomatic pressure on Abuja. Nigeria, and also Africa's largest democracy and economy, now faces scrutiny over human rights violation, religious intolerance, and insecurity that has displaced over 2 million people. The joint condemnation may affect military cooperation, farming aid, and trade negotiations, especially if evidence of government failure to protect citizens continues to mount. So meanwhile, humanitarian groups are urging Canada and also US and other nations to go beyond words, calling for international peacekeeping mission, sanction on militant funders, and urgent intervention to stop the bloodshed. In Nigeria's Middle Belt and northern states, survivors continue to cry out for help. Even local church leaders say the attack have wiped out entire villages, while survivors are left with nothing but faith and trauma. Now, one clergyman was, quoted saying, Our people are being killed every week. We bury the dead and no one comes to our rescue. The world must not remain silent. With Canada and the US now speaking up, many hope global attention could finally bring relief and justice to victims who have suffered the silence for too long now. So guys, the alliance between Canada and the United States marks a turning point in international response to Nigeria's religious crisis. But the question remains, will global condemnation translate into real action, or will it become another diplomatic statement lost in time? Guys, only time will tell. Let us know what you think about this under the comment section. Do you believe international pressure can end religious persecution in Nigeria, or would these statements fall on deaf ears once again? So if you found this report insightful, subscribe, like, and also share for more people, let people be aware of this. So guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.